Hello fellow gamers, today I'm going to try to explain you the solo rules I made up for playing Heroes of Normandy, the board game, and I'm using the first scenario of Pegasus Bridge to explain this to you. So I'm gonna explain the forces first. We have the British forces ready. In deployment zone there is a recon team which can be put a little bit closer. The Germans defending the position, the Horsa Bridge, fire team plus officer. There's another fire team. They're all dug in behind sandbags, and there's a MG42. The extraction zone for the Allied forces is this side of the board, and the entry point of the reinforcements of the Allies, consisting of the small tank Tetrarch and a jeep with officer and anti-tank gun that will arrive later in the game. The aim of this scenario is to get them across the bridge, for they will be reinforcements for the future scenarios. The sooner I get them over the bridge, the more efficient they will be, the earlier they can come on in future scenarios. The Germans getting reinforcements from there. There is also a second team of British paratroopers ready to enter the game on turn 2 from that side. And the Allied forces have these little bonus tokens they can use during the scenario. So how do we proceed for solo play? First of all, we take dice. I only have one officer with 1 star for the Allied troops for the moment, and the Germans have 2 stars officer here. So I have to take 2 die for the Germans and 1 for the Allied. The Germans win and they get the initiative for this first turn. So like I said, there will be reinforcements here on the second turn. So now, next thing we do is to roll a die for each unit. This will indicate the initiative of the order. And we also roll die for the Germans. If they roll 1, 2, 3 for the first turn, they're asleep and they will not be able to do anything at all this turn. These also have their initiative die, but will be less important because in the first turn nothing will happen over there. I will be concentrating on this side of the bridge with these first paratroopers. So the initiative order is important when there are ties. Like this unit has a 6, this unit has a 6. Since the Germans have the initiative, this unit will be first activated, and only then the Allies. So the die rolling is fun because it always gives an element of surprise and something you can't control to each turn. Sometimes you're lucky and your Allied troops can start first, and sometimes you have really bad rolling and the Germans get to move all their troops first. So this is why we have these bonus tokens for the Allied forces, and the Germans do not get these in solo play because otherwise it's too much fiddling around with tokens. I'll give you an example of activation. So each unit, every one of them, can make 2 actions, and the actions consist of either half the movement, like this one has a 4, so it could move two spaces, and then you can shoot once, or you can shoot twice, so you have a double roll for die for shooting, or you could use your both actions to move. If you are making an assault for, like, instance, this unit, could assault this unit because it's far away. If you have a unit with maximum speed 4, you for the first move you divide by 2 rounded up, so that's 2. And if you would use both actions for the movements, then you can move a maximum of 3. So when there's a unit that you can activate but there's nothing to do or shoot, you can, for instance, move it like this and then put it on activate, or you can leave it like that and put 2 activation tokens on it. So that's more important. It's kind of an Overwatch move, so you can do something when the enemy forces is doing something. In the case that at the end of the turn you have not activated this unit at all, for every activation token on the unit you subtract 1 from the next initiative roll. So if you roll 6, you put a die with value 4 on this one for the next turn. Suppression markers, I found that the use of suppression markers should be used more freely, because you could in fact do a suppression with any type of weapon, even with a revolver. If you start shooting at someone, he will surely duck to get out of the way. Now if you shoot with a Bren or another machine gun, you automatically give a suppression counter to the enemy unit unless you roll a 1. So if you roll a 1 really shot or wide, so it's no effect. Otherwise you put automatically a suppression counter on the enemy. If you try the same with a normal, like a fire team, then you have to roll equal to or more than the value of the unit. Like this unit has a 4. It's in a sandbag, so it got a 2 cover save, 2 cover plus. So if you roll a 4 or a 5 where you die, when you shoot at them, you don't hit him, but you give him 1 suppression marker. Another thing that can be useful, I found solo play, is the use of officers. For instance, the Recon team has 6 and the officer in an adjacent square has 3. He can choose to switch his activation order with another unit. So this gives you a more tactical feel of the use of officers. So it's like in real war. Officers order around other units to increase their effectiveness. In order to keep the game interesting, I think it's useful to have spawning points for the enemies with dedicated units. Like this, on a 1 I make the jeep, the Zindap come up, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and depending on the turn the probability of enemy troops coming up is increased. So starting from turn 2 I will roll a die. If it's a 6, then there's a reinforcements of the Germans coming up in a spawning point. Then I roll a die to see which reinforcements arrive on the board, and so on and so forth. And on turn 3, it's 5 plus, then turn 4 is a 4 plus, etc., etc. So at the end you will have all the reinforcements coming on the board, and this makes your game more interesting. So we have a time pressure, which is best way to have fun in the game, because if you just eliminate all the forces here, and then there's no more extra forces coming on the board, then it falls a bit flat and there's no more fun to be had. So that's in a nutshell the rules for solo play. You can possibly also use the cards from the game. You just flip one card each beginning of turn for each side, and you just use your common sense to use them during the turn. So for the German forces you use it as soon as you can, and for the Allied forces you have the advantage of choosing when you can use it. So that's the solo plays for Heroes of Normandy. If you have any questions, just send me a little message and I'll try to answer your questions. Bye gamers, see you.